You're listening to Worshipology with Kurtis Parks, a biblical, practical, and spiritual conversation about living and leading worship. Visit kurtisparks.com to learn more and check out Kurtis's books and latest resources for your worship team. Worshipology is a part of the Worship Leader Magazine podcast network. Worship Leader Magazine has a heart to equip spirit-led worship leaders with practical tools, theological insight, and encouragement for the local church. Today's episode is brought to you by PraiseCharts. Whatever resources you're looking for on the latest songs in today's worship music, PraiseCharts has you ready to go. Whether you need chord charts, lead sheets, or full orchestrations, everything is formatted for your team and available for instant download. Stay current, save time, and lead with confidence. Check out PraiseCharts.com today and get your hands on the freshest songs for Sunday. Now, lean into today's episode of Worshipology with Kurtis Parks.
Well, hey, thanks so much for listening to the Worshipology podcast. This is a biblical, practical, spiritual conversation about living and leading worship. And today I'm pumped because I've been trying to get this guy on. He's all over the world. Today, where are you at now, Andy?
I'm in Boston.
Boston. You are in Boston on tour with Brandon Lake, but this guy is a phenomenal songwriter, worship leader, artist. Andy Cherry, welcome to Worshipology, man.
Dude, I know. We've been trying for a while. Thank you for your patience, and thank you so much for having me. This is, just for everybody listening, this is what your voice sounds like in the morning after you sing a 3-hour set and then travel by bus. So prayers up that I've got a voice by 8 p.m. tonight. But,
Bro,
right now, don't ask me to sing anything.
No, I won't ask you to sing anything. We'll let you rest up, man. Go get a medicine ball from Starbucks or something, man. You're going to need it tonight. But yeah, I got to meet Andy about 10 years ago. We were both living in DC at the time. And I had heard of his songwriting and checked him out. And just this guy is such a wealth of lyrics and melodies. And like, it's just amazing. We reconnected recently at the Empower 21 gathering in Tulsa. And this guy got asked to share some songs and the room fell silent. Like, Andy, talk to me a little bit about that moment, because as a writer, it's always cool when you craft lyrics that make other songwriters pause. Like,
yeah, well, first of all, I mean, that was such an incredible experience down in Tulsa. Dustin Smith, who had invited me, is just one of the absolute greatest humans I know, a pastor, a friend, and somebody that I really, really look up to. And so when you get a text from Dustin saying like, "Hey, I think you should come to this thing," you just kind of say yes.
You got to do it. Yeah.
That's what I told my wife. I was like, "Hey, like I'm gonna go to Tulsa like right before we go on tour, but Dustin's asking me, and I just kind of feel like this is something the Lord wants me to do." And all up to it, like, I mean, you and I talked when we were there. It's like, I don't really know what we're doing here.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. And then proceeded to have our minds blown by the vision and the mission of Empower 21 and what they're seeking to do all around the world, through prayer and evangelism. And then now to have this worship component added into it, which is like, that's a great idea. And then to ask like jokers like you and me to like advise.
What are we doing here?
To be at the table, on that first day, with some of these absolute heroes and legends, humbling, doesn't even scratch the surface.
Nah.
But Dustin was like, "Hey, on the last day, we're going to do this like songwriting, kind of breakout session."
Little Q&A
turned into like the main session. And so like it was 300-400 worship leader songwriters from around the world, literally around the world, in this room, and we were just gonna talk about songwriting. I'm like, great, like easy, I can talk about songwriting anytime. And so we, this is probably 9 a.m. or something like that, and we've had a very full couple days. We sit down, and when I tell you at like 9:03 a.m., Dustin's like, "All right, Andy, kick us off." And I'm there. I'm like,
Huh?
we didn't talk about this. I know I was supposed to play something, but I thought there'd be a little, like tete-a-tete. There'd be a little
Yeah.
conversation happening first. But no, just
No
straight
warm up.
on, rip the Band-Aid, no vocal warm-up, no nothing. I'm just there. And I was like, and immediately, the Lord reminded me of this song that I love and that I wrote a few years ago, called The Glory. And I played
Mm,
that. And first of all, yeah, I mean, to be on a panel where it's like sitting next to me is Stu G and
right.
then Darlene Check, and
Darling
I'm like,
check.
and they're asking me to share a song,
To
and I'm
open it
like,
up.
to open it up. I was like, I think you got this
Yeah.
mixed up, you know, but it was such a special experience and such a
Mm,
uh, an honor really to be able to share that song. And I kind of just like, how you get that, like when you're playing music, you sort of get that like highway hypnosis,
yeah, yeah,
sort of
yeah.
feel.
Woo, woo, woo.
Right. And it's like that, like I remember like when you're like running, and I don't really run that much anymore, but like, back in the day, you're like running the mile at school and you get that last like 250 yards and you just kind of like everything blocks out. That's how that moment was for me. I was just like, I'm just gonna play this song, try not to screw it up, just get it
Yeah.
done. And then I end it, and like everybody's just like looking at me like with this like puzzled look, and I'm like, all right, like I don't know what to do now.
Yeah. Do you
um,
like it or
that was kind of my thought. I was like,
wow.
did I curse?
Yeah, yeah. Was there blasphemy in the song? I didn't know about it.
I was like, there's some people in here who would definitely tell me if I
Yeah,
said
yeah.
something heretical, but no,
No,
I
I
mean
could
it
just tell
was.
you from being in the room, it was I had never heard the song before, and it's like there are those songs that you can listen to and just be like, wow, the spirit of God must have been in that writer's room, and you guys got some downloads on that one, and that's what it felt like in that room of just like how are we all not singing this weekend, like just a
Mm,
song that like the depth of that, and that's kind of what I want to talk to. So just for our listeners, like I mean, you've written all these songs. Now you're writing. You're a professional writer, Capital, right?
yeah.
With Capital, and you're leading worship with Seacoast. You're touring with Brandon Lake. Got some amazing songs that you're doing for your son. I want to get into all that stuff, but tell us a little bit. Like, how did this start, Andy? Like, how did you discover? Like, I might have a knack for writing songs.
Yeah, I mean the songwriting thing, I mean it starts for a lot of people where I got a guitar in like end of middle school, and I
Uh
just
huh.
fell in love with it. Like you couldn't pry it out of my hands. Like I would just be playing in my room all night, absolutely bothering the heck out of my sisters and my parents, and just playing literally till my fingers bled. And just
Wow.
this, I was like, oh my gosh, like I was like, 14, 15 years old, and I was
Wow.
like, I found it. I found the thing that I was made for. It's like this is
Dude.
it. This is it.
Wow.
And so I was able to start helping lead worship at church. That's a
Where
whole
did you grow
other.
up?
I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina,
Okay.
and I went to this large church, but it didn't really have like the most like modern worship, and so like there
Yeah.
wasn't like kids who played instruments,
Oh
and
wow.
so I was the only kid in my youth group who played guitar,
Wow.
and so
Wow.
the youth pastor was like, "Hey, I'm gonna come pick you up every single Sunday," and he did for 4 years. He picked me up every single
Wow.
Sunday and drove me to church because I didn't have a car. Drove me to Sunday so that I could lead worship for our middle school group.
Amazing.
And like the first Sunday, I knew like three chords. Spoiler alert, worship leaders. That's kind of all you need to know. But I learned a fourth one. I
As
learned
long
a
as you got
fourth
a
one.
capo, you're good, man.
That's right. I don't even think I did. I don't even know
Oh
what that
gosh.
was at that time. I mean, this is a long time ago, man. This is like,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're talking 2001, 2002, like
Wow.
really before like Passion was, it's like all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Like we were playing, I don't even remember what songs we were playing, but
Wow.
the songwriting thing, just, I think like I was always like a very like, very emotional, like introspective, like artistic, kind of kid. And I would journal, just like
Wow.
all of like my musings about the world
Uh
as
huh.
like a
Uh huh.
as like a teenager, and thinking that I had everything together. And I actually stumbled upon some of those notebooks. My parents just recently, in the last year
No
or
way.
so, moved out of my the childhood home that I grew up in, and they're like, "Hey,
Wow.
here's all your junk. Go through it." And
Uh,
so I found these notebooks. And, it's pretty cringy, it's like textbook, like a little guy
there
like
was a
found.
girl.
Oh, there's a lot of that, but it was almost like it was worse than that, because it was like it's like, oh, buddy found a thesaurus. He thinks he's
Hey,
smart.
nice.
But I
Discovered some
really,
words.
yeah, I fell in love with it, and it wasn't for several years that I really started writing worship music.
Okay.
Um, there's something about it, even like now I didn't have my head screwed on straight in a lot of ways back then. I was a dumb kid, like lots of us are. Um, but I think even then, there was something in me that understood sort of the set apartness of worship music. And I was like, I don't like, that maybe that's like, oh, I don't feel worthy, or I don't really want
Mm,
to do this, or,
wow.
um, but it took a while for me to start really writing worship songs. And that was like in my 20s. I started writing just kind of devotional worship songs. And one of those was like this, like, I literally wrote it in like 10 minutes before like a youth group one night.
Wow.
A song, if the OGs will know, it's a song called Revival's Fire. I wrote this song
Nice.
like in like 10 minutes before like a
Yep.
youth group thing. And
Wow.
that song, like for 2007, whatever,
Yeah.
2006, like kind of like popped a little bit,
Yeah.
and like got some attention of some things. And then that's
Wow.
when the like kind of the music industry career started sort of progressing.
Wow. Wow. Talk to us a little bit about those days, because it's a different world now. 2026 looks a little different than 2007. So it's not like, just put a song on Instagram and see what happens, or TikTok. It's like, no, there has to be some kind of an organic, like, yeah, buzz, flame, fire, whatever, the breath of God gets onto a song. So with Revival's Fire taking you kind of from, youth group kid to like now, oh, wow, there's some opportunities here. What did that
Yeah.
look like for you? And how did you kind of steward and walk through that season, Andy?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's exactly as you said. It was an organic thing. Like, I had a friend who I was leading worship with at the time. Shout out to Shane Williams, who from
Nice.
the band Siler's Bald. If you remember Siler's Bald,
Wow. Wow.
do you remember that? Do you remember that
I
band?
remember the name. I couldn't tell you
Okay.
the songs, but I remember hearing
Yeah.
that name. Yeah, back then.
Um, he was just like kind of a buddy and a mentor and like an
Wow.
older brother figure. And he was like, "Hey, my brother is the manager for Laura Story,
Okay.
and I want to send him your music." I was like, "Okay, cool." Like, I just didn't, knew nothing
Yeah.
about any of this. And so sent, like, literally, I don't know if you could even email songs back then.
Wow.
Maybe
Too
like,
big of a file. Too big of a file.
right.
Put it on a flash drive and send it in the mail.
Is probably something like that. I have no clue how it happened, but
Wow.
his brother David heard my music, and he's like, "Hey, I believe in you. I want to manage you." And then helped me get set up with investors and producers. And
Wow.
then I was in the studio at 22 years old, like releasing
Wow.
or cutting this, my first project called City of Light.
Wow.
And I've said this before, but like, I just thought this is how this whole thing worked, and it is
Wow.
not how this whole thing works.
Wow.
Because I was in the studio, like mixing my independent EP, and like the labels from Nashville were coming into the studio to like listen to the mixes and being like, and like I literally like got offered deals, before I even had anything out.
Wow.
It's like, that is so not how the
Yeah.
industry works these days.
Crazy.
But I think all of it was like, here's these open doors that the Lord keeps opening. And I was just like, all right, I guess this is what we're doing.
Wow.
It was a whirlwind for sure.
Wow. Talk to us a little bit about, you recently posted something where it kind of seems like you had gone through a death of sorts only to have a rebirthing moment of some dreams. And I think a lot of people listening to this can identify with that, like maybe we've had something where we felt like God called us to put it on the altar, or maybe we have something where it's like, we didn't put it on the altar, but it got put on the altar, and you die into a dream only to trust that there's a season beyond what you see in front of you, that you have no idea what God's going to do in the future. Talk to us about walking through those hard seasons, Andy, and what it looks like maybe coming out on the other side of that. Life, music, ministry, all of it.
Totally. I think that, for me, like that whole whirlwind that I was just speaking of, it kept progressing. I signed a record deal at 24 years old.
Wow.
With Provident, this is Sony. This is where all these heroes and legends. And I was just like, what am I doing here? They're like, all right, we want Jason Ingram to produce your debut record. I was like, okay,
that doesn't stink. That doesn't stink.
It sure doesn't. And I mean, also credit to Jason, who really taught me, as a 23, 24-year-old, how to write songs. It's like, can't have a better teacher than that.
No.
And so this thing started going pretty well. It's like I had a song on the radio. I was going on tours. Like it was, it wasn't like this kind of trajectory, but it was going,
Right. Yeah.
And I was on a tour. It was the longest tour I'd been on. It was like some 35 shows in like a fall.
Wow.
It was intense.
Wow.
And at the time, Michelle, my wife, and I had been married for about maybe a little over a year, maybe a year and a half.
Wow.
And we were just absolutely struggling, man. We were running on fumes. And you reach this crossroads where I'm like, okay, like I say it all the time, like I'm living a dream that I didn't dream, right? Like this artist thing that I was doing, like this was never like, I never like wrote down in like, my dream journal as a kid, like I want to be a touring musician or whatever. It was never anything like that. But this is what I'm doing. But then I have like, this is what I know is my life, which is my relationship with my wife. And it was very clear, like fork in the road, make a decision, buddy.
Wow.
And so, I went to, the label, and I was just like, hey, I know like I've got all these tours lined up for the next year, but I feel like if I do that, I'm going to lose my marriage.
Wow.
And let me just be very, very clear. Like they were kind and gracious and very sweet about everything, but it's also a business. And you've just invested a lot of money into somebody who's, for whatever reason is saying, I don't want to do this. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like, all right, we're done. And so just like that, it was like, bam, 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 wall, done.
Oh.
And so I think that, I mean, if I look back in hindsight now, which like the benefit of getting a little bit older is you can look back at like seasons of your life and be like, okay, there was like 5, 6, maybe 7 years of like, I had no clue who I was.
Wow.
And I think it's like, and I think for anybody who's like listening right now, it's like, we all have the ability, I think, to be defined by what we do rather than who we are. And for me, like that had been reinforced. And I had just bought into this thing. It's like, I'm the best. I'm so awesome. Everybody tells me I'm awesome all the time.
Wow.
And gosh, that feels good.
Yeah.
And then when you reach this point where it's like, nobody's cheering, nobody's like, the phone's not ringing as much. It's like, who am I?
Wow.
And there was like a wilderness kind of period in that, that in the moment I wasn't very thankful for sure. But gosh, was that formative.
Wow.
It created the space for God to mold me and to shape me into the person that he had always designed me to be.
Wow.
Painfully,
Yeah.
It's like, like you said, it's like, I might not have put all that on the altar, but like, man, I was there.
Wow.
And my dad always said growing up, it's like, the hardest part about being a living sacrifice, right? Like Jesus calls us to, is like, gosh, that hurts.
Wow.
because you feel it all,
Yeah.
right? Like
That's so good.
you're trying to get off the altar all the time, right?
Living sacrifice. Yeah. Get me off. Get me
Right.
off.
Get me
Yeah.
off.
Wow.
And
That's wild.
so that led into this period of, and I've talked about this before, but where the seed of something, I think, pure and holy was like, okay, you've made your life about you.
Mm.
Now make it about others. It's like,
Wow.
am I making much of Jesus or am I making much of myself? And it's
Wow.
like, I want to invest in the church. I want to be out of the spotlight. I just need to get into the trenches with people and just serve and learn who I am as a person, as a pastor, as a husband, and all of this. And I think that the seed of that was good, but during that time, I let sort of fear and anxiety and like
Wow.
self-doubt, all of those things sort of kind of tarnish what was a pure thing from the Lord.
Wow.
And that caused me to just completely stop writing almost
Wow.
for a period of almost 5 or 6 years. And
Really?
that was still like, I mean, it was still a beautiful time, but
Yeah.
there was like this portion that was like missing.
Huh.
And during COVID, the Lord started downloading songs again. And,
Wow.
I've had this, I had this moment. I was on the platform at our church, and all of these like spontaneous melodies and lyrics
Wow.
were coming.
Wow.
And I had this conversation with the Lord where she was like, I thought all this was done. Like,
Yeah.
and it was Jesus just said like, that's what you said,
Whoa.
you
Wow.
know?
Wow.
And the analogy that I've used before, is like that we have the tendency to sort of like, we can write ourselves a letter of like all of our fears and like
Yep.
all of our doubts and all these things. And then we just sort of forge God's signature at the bottom, right?
Whoa. Okay. Yeah.
Because we're like, because at the core of this thing is, I want to learn how to be humble. I want to learn how to be like pure of heart. I want to learn
Yeah.
how to like serve and not be served. Those are great things. But the enemy speaks into the vacuums that we create of it, and will say things like, you're not good enough. Nobody wants to hear
Yeah.
from you. You had your shot. You blew it.
Wow.
You're not worthy. You know,
Wow.
all of these things. And man, I bought it hook, line, and sinker for a long time. And so when the Lord opened up that opportunity for me to start writing again, it absolutely took me by surprise, because like
Wow.
I said, like I thought it was done.
Yeah.
But that's it. It's a common phrase, that we say in our house now, which is just like, we do not bury things that God didn't say were dead.
Whoa.
You don't bury them,
Nice.
like,
I like that.
and we use that. It's like, all right, like until we hear from the Lord that this is done,
Wow.
we are going to go for it. We are going to believe that like God is going to redeem this and God is going to use this. And,
Wow.
and from that point on, it's like the Lord, again, it was like, it's fun to even like look back. It's like that, like whirlwind, like the absolute, craziness of those early days. It hasn't felt like that at all.
Wow.
Starting again, it's been slow and it's been grinding, and it's
Wow.
been like day after day putting in the work, like working on myself. It's like it's the thing that I tell young, worship leaders and songwriters all the time. Anytime they ask me for advice, I'm always very humbled by that, but I always say the same thing. I was like, you have control over two things in this world.
Okay.
Only two. You have the control over the content of your character and the way you
Wow.
pursue God, and the quality of your work.
Wow.
Those are
That's
the only
really
two
good.
things. Those are the only two things that you have any say over in this life, really.
Wow.
So if you're
Wow.
working on yourself, sanctification, trying to be holy, like making yourself into through the power of the Holy Spirit, allowing yourself to be formed into
Wow.
the person that God has designed you to be. And you're working your tail off to try to get really
Yep.
great at what the thing you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Like if
That's gold.
nothing ever pops off, you are such a success because God is going to say, well done, faithful servant.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that what we're actually going for here?
Wow.
You know, it's
Wow.
like streams, great. Money sure helps, right? If
Yeah.
you've seen It's a Wonderful Life, sure helps down here,
Yeah. Yeah.
but all of that stuff, it's like it's
Fades.
fleeting.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
And I think that like I can sleep real good every night knowing that like, hey, I'm doing my best to be the best, follower of Jesus, husband and father that I can be. And I work really freaking hard at what I do to be good.
Wow. That's amazing, man. Well, just kudos to you for recognizing that season years ago, and choosing your marriage over what the world would see like, no, you're crazy, man. Because I think now you're living in the fruitfulness of the seed that you planted those years ago. And, I love what you just said about how like the second go around, it's just kind of it's been slower. It's been harder work in some ways, but I mean, you and I both know like we're fans of good food, right? And you can have a microwave meal or you can have a meal that's done in the smoker over 10 hours. Yep. And I think we all know what tastes better. Like, I feel like right now you're in that season where you're starting to see like the reward of that faithfulness and choosing the right choice in that moment where so many would have probably not chosen that. And I mean, talk to us a little bit about how do you stay in that wilderness season? A, how do you recognize that you're in a wilderness season if you're listening to this? And then B, how do you not get bitter, but you get better?
Yeah. Recognizing that you're in a wilderness season, I don't think I've ever been asked that question before. It is one of those things like it's pretty hard to not know.
Wow.
But the bitter and better, that's such a great way of putting that. I was just having this conversation with a buddy yesterday, which is just like the older I get, the more bored I am by cynicism.
Oh, wow. That's good. That's really good.
I think cynicism is the laziest thing in the world.
Wow.
I think it's incredibly boring. And I don't think it's sexy, and I'm never impressed.
Wow. I'm writing that down. That's so good.
I mean, because what's really hard is to hope.
Wow.
And hope and cynicism cannot share the same house.
Wow.
And what we hear in Romans is like one of our life verses in our house, which is like, hope does not put us to shame.
That's so good. So good.
And so we know that because hope doesn't put us to shame, if we continue to choose hope and that hope is rooted in Jesus, man, that means that I'm going to be brave enough to be hurt and disappointed.
Wow.
That means that like, man, the hurt stinks, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's nobody who makes it through their whole life without feeling betrayed, without feeling overlooked, without feeling underappreciated, without feeling like somebody is getting a shot that they thought that they should have. That is human, right? Yeah. That goes back to the original sin of like, I want more. And then Cain and Abel, right? It's envy, right? Yeah. Like these are deeply rooted in the human experience, right? But if you say, I'm going to choose to have hope regardless of my circumstances and regardless of the outcomes of the things that I'm doing, that is the most countercultural thing that you could possibly do. And it's the one thing that I think will absolutely change you internally and change the world around you. Wow. But if you fall into that trap of cynicism, man, is it hard to get out. Because what that does is it creates a filter on your entire life of how you see every relationship. You want to leverage people for outcomes. You want to you want to compare what you have against what somebody else has all the time.
Wow.
And that's a tough pit to get out of.
Wow. I love what you just said about that. I think it's Romans 5 where our hope doesn't disappoint us. I was just reading that like 2 weeks ago, bro. And this idea of like, I literally had a conversation last week. Somebody was walking through something really hard in our church, and they literally just were like, I guess I just got to hope. I've got to hope. And that stuck out to me of like, what other choice do we have? Like as the people of God, like hope is our only option. You know, we have this thing we say, and it's not unique to our church, but a lot of churches say it, like the best is yet to come. It's a phrase I've seen on t-shirts and, you know, on walls in church buildings. And you have to live with that at the core of your heart, because if you live with cynicism, if you live with just this pessimistic, negative outlook on everything, A, it's just not fun. And I've been in those seasons. It's just not fun. But B, it's not biblical. I mean, like all of the people of God walk through hardship. You're right. It's deeply rooted in our human experience. And I mean, has like walking through some of those seasons and, you know, getting through the wilderness, has that kind of shaped some of the ways? 'Cause I did want to ask you, like, what's inspiring for you as a songwriter? Like, is it like the seasons and the testimonies that you have in your life and your family and what you guys are walking through? Is it, you know, writing with other people? Like, where do you find the inspiration for some of these lyrics that are clearly written out of a deep well of the human experience, man?
Yeah. Well, I mean, well, thank you. I when it comes to lyrics, I think, I've always, you know, tried to approach it, especially in the last like 5 or 6 years. I've had this sort of, I don't think I've ever shared this before, but I have this, this weird, like, it's not like a mantra, because that, you know, people are going to call me like new agey and stuff, but it is
I
like
say
this,
that all
like,
the time. I don't know.
okay, cool. But it is like a guiding principle that I put over all of like the things that I put my hands to.
Wow.
Which is, and I named it Blue Collar Contemplative.
Ooh, okay. I like that.
And it's a little silly, but like,
Yeah.
what that means to me is, I want it to be something that everybody understands, but causes everybody to think.
That's so good.
So it's like, it's a simple practice, but it's like, and that's when, you know, like before I was like making fun of myself for like finding a thesaurus, right?
Yeah.
It's like, we can all get like a little too like, you know, like
little heady.
Oh, I'm so smart. Oh my gosh. I know so many words, whatever. But like, I always want, you know, especially in, you know, writing for the faith space and writing worship music and writing music for contemplation or devotion. Like, I want to write music that is accessible to everyone, but hopefully there is a seed or there is a nugget in there that everybody can grab a hold of and will cause them to do some introspection and some looking in. But when it comes to inspiration, like everything you said is a part of it. You know, if I look down kind of like my list of like songs that I've written in the last like 5 or 10, you know, 5 years or so, you know, for other artists, there's songs that are out right now that other artists are carrying that are their songs. And I'm like, that is my life story, right? That is my wife's story, you know, and it is such a beautiful thing. And also like, there's something that makes me so happy that, it feels like a ministry in some way to be like, hey, I'm putting my life on the altar of this thing right here. I'm putting like my stories. And sometimes it's really scary because like I'll be in these like, you know, I know you've probably been in these before, these like blind date kind of rights, you know,
you don't know what you're getting into.
Don't know what you're getting into. And then I'm like, and then like the Holy Spirit will speak something. It's like, hey, you got to tell the story of how your wife got healed from anxiety and depression.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, here we go.
Yep,
and then
we're
a
going
song
deep.
comes out of it. And then that artist released the song. And no one in the world knows who I am. No one in the world knows who Michelle is.
Wow.
But we gave this story for the people.
Yeah.
Right.
That's amazing.
And it's one of the coolest things ever. Right. And it's like only me and Michelle and maybe a couple friends know that that's where that came from.
Wow.
And
that's wild.
I think for anybody trying to write, especially in worship music or in Christian, contemporary Christian music or whatever that is,
Yeah.
um, you know, one, I always say good writers are good readers.
Oh, that's good.
And, if if you're not in the Word of God, like that well's going to run dry.
Mm.
And the second thing is like, if you're not reading other stuff too, like, where do you think like your language is going to come from, especially like lyrical stuff? It's
Mm.
like, and so even in the past like 2-3 years, I've had like made it a real discipline to be a reader. And I'm talking, like
Yeah.
fiction, nonfiction,
Yep.
articles,
You name it.
interviews,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Like I'm looking for anything, right?
Mm.
It's
Mm.
like I'm walking into all this just like, for just to fill up the creative tank, because
Yeah.
like it can run empty, and it's
Wow.
hard to get it out of nowhere.
Wow, that's amazing, man. I like that. Good writers are good readers. I think that's so cool. Like, and what are you reading too? Like right now, like is there an author that you're just like kind of you can't put them down right now? Because I'm reading a lot of NT Wright, and if it turns into my songwriting, those are going to be like 20 verse songs. So I don't know what to do with all that.
Yeah.
What are you reading right now, Andy?
Well, I have like a stack of novels that I'm trying to get through on this
Nice.
tour, and after all of that, I am not been disciplined on this tour of reading, so I'm telling on myself. But I am, whenever you're listening to this, someone told me that the Project Hail Mary was
Oh,
incredible,
is that
and
based on a book?
yes, and they said
Yeah.
it's like they were like, bro, it's like Interstellar meets The Martian, and I'm like, say less, I'm in.
Sign me up. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm like, I'm gonna try to read the book before the movie comes out. So
that's
um,
awesome.
I'm I'm starting that one.
I love it, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for, I know it's so busy. You guys are doing some incredible things. Give me one fun thing, just from being on the road with Brandon. I know you guys have seen miracles. You've seen incredible stories. Like
Yeah.
just give me one snapshot, man. Like what's it like just, being out on the road? Cause that's gotta be a unique experience.
Yeah. Huh. Well, there is, 4 years of memories.
Wow.
It is actually really cool that we're in Boston,
Okay.
because 2 years ago, I think about 2 years ago, we were here on the Summer Worship Nights tour with Phil Wickham,
Wow.
which is always just an incredible night. And this is our second time doing that tour. And we
Cool.
get to Boston, and it's the first time, I think, yeah, it was the first time that we had come to New England at all with Brandon, and first time we had come through Boston
Mm.
on one of those tours, and the atmosphere of expectation and hunger in that room was like palpable.
Wow.
And I think that like there's hand wringing and like criticism of like and you've lived in DC, like what people say
Yeah.
about the church
Yeah.
in certain geographic areas.
Yeah.
And when I
New
tell you
England's
that
tough ground. New England's tough ground.
it
Yeah.
is, but when I tell you that I've never felt a room more on fire,
Whoa.
and that was I think we were talking about it this morning, actually. It's like that was a catalyst, I think, for I think the next whatever season this is of Brandon's career and of our our journey as like the band is just this absolute fire that's burning for the lost. It's
Wow.
like that I think was when
Mm.
the evangelistic kind of component of what we do was really sort of sparked in a lot of ways of just like this, like it doesn't have to be just a night that like blesses believers and creates an
Wow.
atmosphere of worship, and it doesn't have to just be an evangelistic Billy Graham crusade.
Wow.
It's like doing both of those at the same time and coming to this understanding is like, what is the most attractive thing to somebody who doesn't follow Jesus? Well, it's Jesus.
Yeah.
It's the presence of the Lord.
Amazing.
And it's like if you usher in and you allow the presence of the Lord, to be evident, in one of these spaces, even in like this massive arena, um, somebody is going to, you know, walk away, you know, like 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 Jacob did in Genesis and say, "Surely the Lord is in this place," and I did not
Didn't know it.
perceive it, and I
Wow.
didn't know it,
Wow.
and I think that was a an incredibly catalytic thing, and so it's always cool to kind of come back to those spots.
That's amazing, man. Well, dude, one more question for you. I don't know how our time flew this quickly, but this is how we end every single podcast, man. What is the Holy Spirit speaking to you right now? Just kind of been on repeat in your prayer life. What do you feel like you're getting in the presence of the Lord? Anything he's whispering to you lately?
Oh man, um, so 2 days ago, um, I got into an Uber to head to the airport.
Mm.
Um, and I'm not usually like the chattiest guy in Ubers, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I the older I get, the more introverted I get.
I
But we
think it
just
happens
started,
to us. Yep.
but we just started chatting, and we had this just beautiful conversation, um, about the way that people are connected in this
Mm.
world, right?
Wow.
And he was just like, you know, if the guy who salts the bridge doesn't salt the bridge, then the doctor can't get to the hospital to to help the sick people. And how
Hmm.
many more people would die if the person wasn't salting the highway to
Huh.
get the doctor to, you know, that kind of conversation.
Wow.
And I was thinking about that, and you know, we talk about like Imago Dei, right? The image of
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
And and I think over the last couple days, you know, leading up to when we're recording this, um, I think the Lord is just saying, "See the Imago Dei in
Wow.
people.
Wow.
See me, and call it out.
Mm.
See me in people and call it out. Don't be
Wow.
afraid. Don't feel like you're foolish." And so, literally, like that night, like I get to my hotel in Philadelphia, and it was like 12:30. I was exhausted, and I
Wow.
walk up to the desk, and you know, anybody who's ever checked into a hotel late at night, like they're not usually in the best moods if they're working that like graveyard shift.
It's a long shift. Yeah.
But this woman was working behind the desk. She and I just walked up, and she had the biggest smile
Hmm.
on her face,
Wow.
and like it was right then. It's like the Lord's like, "There's the Imago Dei.
Wow.
Call it out."
Mm.
And so I said, "I know this is weird. I'm not a creep. I just want to say, like, you have joy in your heart,
Wow.
and it is blessing me right now. And I just want to say
Wow.
thank you for the joy that you carry." And like she was like she teared up, and she was like so moved, and I was like, I don't really ever experience anybody like you in your role at this time of night. So like it's
Wow.
just crazy. But like I think that's like a lesson for all of us. It's like
Mm.
there are there is not a single person, bro, there is not a single person that you will encounter in your life that God doesn't want.
Wow. Whew.
And if
That's
God
good.
wants to use a simple smile or a kindness or a hello or a
Mm.
how are you, or you maybe he gives you a word, but like that availability and that, you know, kind of bravery to look like a fool or like be seen as a weirdo, like it's like, gosh, like what does that cost me?
What does it cost me? Man, that's good. That's good. I think we're so afraid of looking foolish sometimes, of saying something like, "Oh man, what if I say this? Am I going to look like an idiot?" But the ROI on those moments where you put yourself out there, it's eternal, bro. Like that's so
Yeah.
good, Andy. That's so good, man.
I mean, what's my job? My job is to seeds, right?
So
My
good.
my job's not the ground. And it's
Mm.
like, who knows? Who knows what
Wow.
that ground is? But if one of those seeds takes root, and that
Yep.
what if that person's life has changed? And
Wow.
what if an entire generation, you know, of people's lives are changed because of one little thing of obedience? I have to believe that. There's no shame in hoping
Mm.
for that, right?
Wow. Wow. That's so good. Yeah, you're challenging me right here in the moment just to think through when are daily things where you run into people all the time. Yeah, gas station, bank, in church on a Sunday. It's so easy to go in and out and just not even say anything. But one word of kindness, and we all know the pay it forward story, right? It's like
Sure.
One word of kindness can literally change a life. One smile can turn a person's depression around in a day. I mean, you just don't know what God wants to do with it. So thank you, man. Thank you for challenging us, Andy.
Sure.
Bro, so good, man. Well, listen, we're going to put some links to Andy, his music, how you can connect with him. And dude, what's next for you, man? Just thank you so much for spending some time with us. But tell us what's next for Andy Cherry, man? What you got coming out?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for the past, like we were talking about 5-6 years, I've been writing kind of exclusively for other artists.
Yeah.
And, throughout that time, people just kept asking me like, hey, when are you doing another, AC project? When are you doing another Andy Cherry project? And I was like, I don't know, like whenever the songs feel like they're the ones that like they're literally bursting out of me. And what I didn't predict was like the songs that I would want to release and feel like I had to release were these songs that I wrote for my son, Abraham,
oh man,
who's going to be 7 in just a couple days.
Love it.
And songs about being a dad, songs about watching your kids grow up, and songs about trying to figure it out, songs about, I say like being a person, teaching a person how to be a person,
I love it. Yes.
It's been really cool to even see how the Lord works in these things, not to talk too long about it, but, going back to the Empower 21 thing.
Yeah.
I remember, shout out to the goat, Darlene. We were talking about songs and I was telling her, I was like, yeah, like the stuff I'm releasing isn't really like worship, but like, and she's like, I'm not going to do an Australian accent. She's like, no,
No.
it is.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
Sorry, Darlene. Yeah. Sorry, Darlene.
She sounds way better than that.
Oh yeah. Way better.
No, she's telling you it is. Yeah.
And it's been really cool. I've released one song. The other two, it's just a little 3-song EP, comes out on March 16th on a Monday.
Okay.
But it's been really cool to see the way that the Lord is using these songs in ways that I could have never imagined. Cause I was just like, oh man, like maybe parents are going to get a little teary and, it's going to be something to just like, for families. And I've literally received messages of like testimonies of people who are like, I didn't have a good relationship with my dad. I don't have a good relationship with my dad. And this is reminding me of the Father's love for me.
Dude.
And I was like, oh, like, and I had no idea. I was talking to my wife about it. I was like, I had no idea that this is how God was going to use these songs, but he is.
Wow.
And so it's 3 songs coming out. One's already out, the good stuff.
So good.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope you guys listen to it and hold your kids close. They're not little for long.
No, it goes by quick, man. Well, we're going to put a link to that beautiful record and just encourage everybody to check that out. I definitely have enjoyed the songs myself, and I appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for giving us a little bit of your voice. And man, Lord, we just pray right now that you would just touch his voice and heal him for tonight, and that he can give his all tonight in Jesus' name. Amen. Andy, thank you for being with us on Worshipology, bro. It's been a joy, man.
What an honor. Thanks, guys.
You've been listening to Worshipology with Kurtis Parks. Visit kurtisparks.com to learn more and check out Kurtis's books and resources for worship leaders and teams. Worshipology is part of the Worship Leader Magazine podcast network, brought to you by Worship Leader Magazine. Today's episode was sponsored by PraiseCharts. Visit praisecharts.com and get everything you need for your worship team today.